Every atom in your body is older than the Earth, older than the sun, older than the entire solar system. In fact, the atoms inside you are almost as old as the universe itself. That statement sounds impossible at first. After all, you were born only a few decades ago. Your body formed recently. The cells in your skin may only be weeks old. The atoms inside those cells feel like they should belong to the present. But physics tells a very different story. Because when we trace the history of the atoms inside your body, we discover something extraordinary. None of them were created when you were born. None of them were created when Earth formed. None of them were even created when the sun ignited. Most of the atoms inside you were forged billions of years before the planet you stand on even existed. To understand why, we have to go back to the very beginning. About 13.8 billion years ago, the universe began in an event we call the Big Bang. Not an explosion in space, but the rapid expansion of space itself. At the earliest moments, the universe was unimaginably hot and dense, a seething ocean of pure energy. There were no atoms, no stars, no galaxies, just an expanding fireball of particles and radiation. In those first fractions of a second, energy condensed into the most fundamental particles, quarks, electrons, neutrinos, and photons. As the universe expanded and cooled, quarks combined to form protons and neutrons. These particles would eventually become the cores of atoms, but even then the universe was still too hot for atoms to exist. Electrons were constantly being knocked free by energetic radiation. Matter existed as an ionized plasma, a glowing fog where nuclei and electrons moved independently. For hundreds of thousands of years, this was the state of the universe. Then something remarkable happened. As the cosmos continued to expand, temperatures dropped enough for electrons to finally attach themselves to atomic nuclei. The first true atoms formed, hydrogen and helium. This moment is called recombination, and it happened roughly 380,000 years after the Big Bang. From that point forward, most of the hydrogen atoms in the universe began their long journey through cosmic history. Many of those same atoms are now inside you. Think about that for a moment. The hydrogen atoms in the water inside your cells were born when the universe was less than 1% of its current age. Those atoms have existed for nearly the entire history of the cosmos. But hydrogen and helium alone cannot build complex life. Your body contains carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, calcium, iron, and dozens of other elements. Those atoms required a second chapter in the universe's story, the birth of stars. Hundreds of millions of years after the Big Bang, gravity began pulling enormous clouds of hydrogen gas together. As these clouds collapsed, their centers grew hotter and denser until nuclear fusion ignited. The first stars were born. Inside those stars, the laws of nuclear physics began building heavier elements. Hydrogen fused into helium, helium fused into carbon, carbon fused into oxygen and beyond. Stars became cosmic furnaces where the periodic table was slowly assembled. But even the largest stars could not produce every element. Many of the atoms that make up your body required far more violent events. When massive stars reach the end of their lives, their cores collapse, and the outer layers explode outward in a supernova. These explosions are among the most energetic events in the universe. In the chaos of a supernova, extreme temperatures and pressures allow atomic nuclei to fuse into heavier elements: gold, uranium, iodine, copper, zinc. The atoms forged in these explosions are blasted into interstellar space, spreading through the galaxy as clouds of enriched gas and dust. Over millions of years, that debris mixes with other material between the stars. Eventually, gravity gathers some of that material again, forming new stars and new planetary systems. Our solar system was born from one of those recycled clouds about 4.6 billion years ago. By that time, the raw material of the universe had already been through multiple generations of stars. Hydrogen from the Big Bang had mixed with carbon from ancient stellar cores, oxygen from supernova explosions, and iron from collapsing stars. The sun formed from that mixture. The planets formed from the leftover debris orbiting it. Earth condensed from that swirling disk of gas, dust, and rock. Every atom in our planet was inherited from cosmic history. The iron in Earth's core was forged in long-dead stars. The silicon in its crust was created in stellar interiors billions of years earlier. The oxygen in its atmosphere and oceans came from ancient nuclear reactions inside massive stars. When Earth formed, those atoms were already ancient travelers. But the journey didn't stop there. For hundreds of millions of years, Earth was a violent place. Asteroids collided with the young planet. Volcanoes reshaped the surface. Oceans formed and evaporated repeatedly. The atoms that now make up your body moved through rocks, oceans, and atmosphere for billions of years before life ever appeared. Eventually, chemistry on the early Earth reached a critical threshold. Simple molecules assembled into more complex structures. Chains of carbon atoms formed organic compounds. Some of these molecules began copying themselves. Life emerged. From that moment onward, atoms began cycling through living systems. Carbon atoms moved from atmosphere into plants through photosynthesis. Animals ate those plants. Microorganisms decomposed the remains, returning atoms to soil and air. The same atoms were used again and again in countless organisms across millions of generations. The carbon atom in one of your cells today might once have been part of a dinosaur bone. It might have passed through ancient forests, oceans, and microbes before becoming part of you. Atoms do not remember where they have been. They simply follow the laws of chemistry and physics, and the atoms in your body have traveled an astonishing path. Take the iron atom in your blood. That single atom was forged in the core of a massive star that lived and died long before the sun existed. When that star exploded in a supernova, the iron was thrown into space, drifting through the galaxy for millions of years. Eventually, it became part of the cloud that formed our solar system. It settled into Earth's crust, perhaps inside a mineral deposit. Over time, geological processes brought it closer to the surface. Maybe it dissolved in ocean water. Maybe it was absorbed by a plant. Maybe it moved through several organisms before eventually entering your body. Now it sits in a hemoglobin molecule, helping carry oxygen through your bloodstream. That atom has existed for billions of years, and it will continue existing long after you are gone. The same is true for the carbon atoms in your DNA, the calcium atoms in your bones, and the oxygen atoms in the water flowing through your cells. They have ancient origins. Even the hydrogen atoms in your body may date directly back to the earliest moments after the Big Bang, which means the smallest components of you are almost as old as time itself. When we look at life from this perspective, something profound emerges. You are not made of new matter. You are made of recycled stardust. Atoms that once existed in stars, planets, oceans, and ancient organisms have temporarily assembled into the structure you call your body. For a brief moment in cosmic history, they form the pattern that is you. Then they will move on. The carbon you breathe out will become part of the atmosphere. The nitrogen in your body will return to the soil. The calcium in your bones will re-enter geological cycles. Those atoms will not disappear. They will simply continue their journey through the universe. This is one of the most beautiful ideas in modern physics and cosmology. Nothing in the universe is truly new. Matter changes form. Atoms rearrange themselves into new structures, but the fundamental particles persist. The same hydrogen atoms created shortly after the Big Bang are still drifting through space today. Some of them have passed through stars. Some have become part of planets. Some are now inside your body. In that sense, you are not separate from cosmic history. You are the latest chapter in it. The atoms in your body have witnessed the birth of galaxies, the death of stars, the formation of planets, and the rise of life on Earth. For billions of years, they traveled through space and time before assembling into the organism that is reading these words, and one day they will move on again. But that does not make your existence insignificant. Quite the opposite, because for the first time in their 13.8 billion year history, those atoms have assembled into something capable of understanding where they came from. The universe spent billions of years creating stars that forged elements. Those elements formed planets. Those planets developed life, and that life eventually evolved minds capable of asking questions about the universe itself. The atoms in your brain are now participating in a process that did not exist anywhere in the cosmos for most of its history. Awareness. You are the universe becoming conscious of its own past. The hydrogen atoms that formed shortly after the Big Bang now help power the electrical signals in your neurons. The carbon atoms forged in ancient stars now build the molecules that store your memories. Every thought you have is made possible by atoms that have traveled through cosmic history. When you look at your hands, you are looking at matter that has existed since near the beginning of time. Atoms that once drifted through interstellar space are now arranged into living tissue. And while the structure of your body will not last forever, the atoms themselves will continue their journey long after this moment ends. They will scatter back into the environment, perhaps to be absorbed by another organism, perhaps to become part of a distant future ecosystem, perhaps to drift into space again. But wherever they go, their story will always include this moment. Because for a brief period, in a 13.8 billion year timeline, those ancient atoms became part of a living being capable of wondering how old they truly are. And that realization changes how we see ourselves. You are not simply a person living on a small planet. You are a temporary arrangement of matter that has existed since the dawn of the universe. Every atom in your body carries a history written across billions of years. And right now, for this brief moment, those atoms have assembled into something remarkable. They have assembled into you.